Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Bleach Soul Society, the Sneak Entry Arc, Episode 41, Reunion, Ichigo, and Rukia. Episode in a nutshell is a brief summary of what happened in the episode. So the episode begins with Ichigo waking up where Yoruichi has taken him, and basically, Yoruichi reveals that his hollow mask is what protected him from a potentially fatal blow from Kenpachi, and he is surprised because he hasn't been carrying it around. In fact, when they were in the underground tunnels, we learn in a flashback that Hanataro got a bad feeling from the mask and threw it into the water when Ichigo wanted to keep it as a good luck charm, but now he finds out that it somehow came back to him and once again protected him from a potentially fatal blow. And this, of course, worries Yoruichi because it is a hollow mask, and so Yoruichi decides to keep the mask with her. And then we reveal Yoruichi's true form, which is actually as an adult female, who is also a Shinigami. And she then, when Ichigo starts to worry, reveals that his friends are fine. Inoue and Ishida have been sneaking around, so they're okay. While Chad did get some injuries, he also is okay because he was lucky to meet a nice opponent. And then, of course, there was Ganju and Hanataro, who are heading over to where Rukia is, and this, of course, is when they sense Byakuya's spirit force, which panics Ichigo, so he takes a special device that's apparently one of a kind, a bone wand that can basically grow a wing and help him to fly, and he steals it from Yoruichi and goes running off to save Ganju and Hanataro. And he does, in fact, arrive at the bridge shortly after the other captain that we met in the last episode, Ikitaka, arrives and stops Byakuya from killing Ganju. Ichigo then, when he arrives, first checks on Hanataro and Ganju, then goes to Rukia, of course. They have their reunion where she reveals that she does not want to be saved, and he tells her too bad, he's saving her anyways, and they banter back and forth about, whether or not she's going to be saved. And then Byakuya attacks Ichigo. Ichigo actually manages to hold his own fairly well against Byakuya, but Byakuya then suggests that maybe Ichigo's getting a bit too big for his britches, and as a result of that, decides that he's going to release his sword, which he had done in his attempt to kill Ganju before the other captain arrived. And luckily, he isn't able to release his sword because this is when Yoruichi arrives on the bridge and is recognized by both captains, though we do not find out why because that is the cliffhanger this episode ended on. And so now that we have been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll now rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our mostly objective ranking list first, which uses set values of key storytelling elements to determine a score, and then the personal ranking list, which is purely based on entertainment value and opinion. So, our mostly objective rank values, we have 3 points for our multi-arc supporting character development, which is, of course, Yoruichi revealing her true form as not a man-cat, but actually a woman Shinigami that can transform into a cat. That sounds very male. Then we have another 3 points, bringing us up to 6 for our multi-arc supporting character growth, and this is the reveal of Byakuya's Zanpakuto's name, which is Senbon Sakura, and then also that he can use the flash step in battle, which Ichigo is able to keep up with. And then last but not least, we have a positive 4 points for our world building element, which is the existence of this one-of-a-kind unique item, a bone wand that, again, can grow a wing and help you to fly. And that brings us up to 10, making this just barely a 10 out of 10 episode. Now, this is the last episode of the arc, so we have our definitive arc ranking on our mostly objective ranking. Before we begin it, however, just a brief reminder that with the mostly objective ranking, episodes that have the same score are just ranked in the episode air order. And so to the list, we have in first, Enter the World of the Shinigami. Second, The Man Who Hates Shinigami. Third, Assemble the Gotai 13. Fourth, Formation the Worst Tag. Fifth, Resolution to Kill. Sixth, The Shinigami Whom Ganju Met. Seventh is Reunion, Ichigo and Rukia, which is this episode. Eighth is Renji's Confrontation. Ninth, The Star and the Stray Dog. 10th, Desperation, The Broken Zangetsu. 11th, 14 Days Before Rukia's Execution. 12th, Tragedy of Dawn. 13th, Aizen Assassinated, The Darkness Which Approaches. 14th, Penetrate the Center with an Enormous Bombshell. 15th, The Immortal Man. 16th, Orihime Targeted. 17th, Release the Death Blow. 18th, Break Through, The Shinigami's Encompassing Net. 19th, Motive of the Fist. 20th, Kenpachi Zareki Approaches. And then in 21st, last place, we have Miracle, the Mysterious New Hero. Now, for my personal ranking of this episode, I did enjoy the episode. I thought it was nice that we finally got to see Yoruichi's true form, which is shockingly a woman, because obviously the cat's voice was incredibly deceptively made to sound very male so that you automatically assumed Yoruichi was a male, but turns out it was a woman. And then we also have the fact that she is recognized by both of the captains on the bridge when she arrives to save Ichigo, which of course then hints towards her having been important enough to be recognized by people, even though she hasn't supposedly been in the area for some time. I also enjoyed the bit of banter. As soon as Ichigo and Rukia are reunited, they then have their conversation. It devolves into their regular sort of banter back and forth, and they kind of escape into their own little world, which I think is great. I've been waiting for them to be reunited. It is also left in a cliffhanger because we do end on the bridge without a resolution of whether she is being saved now or later. Of course, it's a rewatch, so it is later, but that's beside the point. Senbon Sakura is probably one of, if not my favorite, Zanpakutos in the entire series, so I did like that we got to see it briefly and learn about it. I don't mind Byakuya as a character, though I like his sword better than I like him. Obviously, there is also this, again, planting of seeds of, Ichigo's hollow mask being there when he supposedly had thrown it away. Even the fact that it showed up against the Boomeroo, and then now it was thrown away, now it's shown up again against Kenpachi, so we've got that building mystery in the background. We get a little bit of a status update on the other characters, which really haven't played a large part in this particular arc, though if my memory is serving me correctly, they will play a bigger part in the next one. Overall, enjoyed it. Oh, I also really enjoyed how Ichigo was able to keep up with Byakuya, because obviously the last time they met, Byakuya had basically taken Rukia's death god powers from him and then left him for dead after being overwhelmingly more powerful than him. So the fact that Ichigo can stand up to his spirit force at its unreleased state, because obviously in the living world it was sealed a bit, and now it's fully unreleased and he can stand up to it, he can keep up with his speed, and he's able to put up a pretty good showing against his sealed Zanpakuto. Also shows Ichigo's growth, which I enjoyed. Ultimately, I enjoyed the episode. It is an 8 out of 10. I couldn't give it a 10 out of 10 because a lot of it was talking, and while it was fun, the battles that are taking place are just beginning, and as a finale to an arc, At least I used the wiki to determine the arcs, of course, but basically, as the end of an arc, I did find it a little bit disappointing because it was mostly just setting up for the next arc, not really doing much as far as tying up any bows or ends or storylines, subplots, etc., basically. So 8 out of 10 was my final score for it, but it is the last episode of this arc, which means that we have our definitive list for this arc, and that starts with in first, The Immortal Man, second, The Resolution to Kill, third, Reunion, Ichigo and Rukia, which is this episode, fourth, Enter the World of the Shinigami, fifth, Desperation, the Broken Zengetsu, sixth, Kenpachi Zareki Approaches, seventh, Miracle, the Mysterious New Hero, eighth, Formation, the Worst Tag, ninth, Penetrate the Center with an Enormous Bombshell, 10th, Renji's Confrontation, 11th, The Star and the Stray Dog, 12th, Assemble the Gotai 13, 13th was 14 Days Before Rukia's Execution, 14, Release the Death Blow, 15, Break Through the Shinigami's Encompassing Net, 16th, The Shinigami Whom Ganju Met, 17th, Tragedy of Dawn, 18th, The Man Who Hates Shinigami, 19th, Aizen Assassinated, The Darkness Which Approaches, 20th, Motive of the Fist, and then in 21st, my least favorite episode of this arc, Orihime Targeted. And that now brings us to the series ranking so far, where we are able to officially rank this arc against the first arc, and we have our mostly objective ranking as follows. Holding on to first place, Agent of the Shinigami arc had a final score of 84%. Meanwhile, Soul Society the Sneak Entry arc ended with a total final score of 158 out of a possible 210, which did leave it at 75.24%. On the personal ranking side, we had Agent of the Shinigami arc also holding on to first place with its final score of 63%, and Soul Society the Sneak Entry arc ended with a final score of 125 out of 210, leaving it with a score of 59.52%. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Bleach, Soul Society the Sneak Entry Arc, Episode 41, Reunion, Ichigo and Rukia. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.